some returning staff and new staff as well. So we're going to take a few moments just to introduce ourselves before we get started here, and we'll start with Senator Rose. Please give us your name and kind of your term in office and where you represent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is TJ Rose. I represent the great people of District 35 in southern Johnson County, and this is my second session.
Thank you. Senator Bowers.
Good morning. Elaine Bowers, Senate District 36, and I represent 14 counties in rural Kansas, Northwest, North Central, Northeast, and Central Kansas. And this will be my 20th year in the legislature when we finish up this term.
Thank you, Senator Argabright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike Argabright, I represent Lyon County, Morris County, and Geary County, and this is my second session.
And our Vice Chair, Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kenny Titus, Senate District 18, Pottawatomie County, Shawnee County, and Jefferson County, and I'm in my first term.
Great, and landing at his seat just in time, our ranking member, Senator Corson.
Senator Ethan Corson, Senate District 7 in Northeast Johnson County.
Thank you. Senator Reichman, who was here on time, I will say. So.
Good morning, Senator Reichman, Southwest Kansas, 7 counties, not near as big as some of them down there, but by Dodge and Liberal, and welcome to be here.
Senator Bowser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Craig Bowser, District 1, including Atchison County, home of Amelia Earhart.
Thank you. Senator Shane.
Senator Doug Shane from Senate District 37. That's the northern tier of Miami County and southwestern portion of Johnson County. And I'm serving my first term.
Thank you. And one of our newest senators, Senator Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Scott Hill, 24th District. It's a rural district, but I only have 2 counties, Saline and Dickinson County. Dickinson County is the home of Dwight Eisenhower. And I've been House trained for 3 years, and this is my first time in the Senate. So,
well, welcome to you, Senator. And Senator Schmidt, we're introducing ourselves and your service to the state and your district.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Patrick Schmidt. I represent the 19th State Senate District, which is Topeka, Lecompton, and a good chunk of Northwest Lawrence, Kansas. And I'm in my first session, was elected in November 2024.
Your first term, but your second session.
Yes.
Got you there. So anyway, thank you. And Senator Clays.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Joe Clays. I am Senate 27, which is Northwest Wichita and Mays.
Thank you. And one of our longest serving senators, Senator Haley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm David Haley, Wyandotte County, Kansas City, the 4th District. And yes, ma'am, this is beginning my 26th year as a member of Senate Judiciary Committee, the Senate Judiciary Committee, and good to be back.
Well, thank you. A lot of institutional knowledge. And the committee couldn't run without some of our most important folks, which would be our staff. So if you'd like to go around and introduce yourselves and how long you've been serving the state of Kansas in session.
I'm Barbara Moore, and the committee assistant. This is my 4th session. Senator Warren.
I am Natalie Nelson from Legislative Research Department. This is going to be my 12th session.
Thank you.
Walter Nelson with Legislative Research, and this is my second session.
Tanner Lassiter with Broadcasting, and this is my 3rd session.
Natalie Scott with the Office of Revisor of Statutes. This is my 14th session doing judiciary and corrections in some combination.
Donica Short, also with the Revisor's Office, and this is my 1st session.
Well, great. We've got a couple of folks who this is their first session, so welcome and thank you. And I know, Barbara, you said this is your 4th session, but you've also been a committee assistant in the House as well. So, and I'm Kelly Warren. I'm honored to chair the committee. This is my sixth session chairing the committee, my second term in the Senate. I am House trained as well, one term in the House, and I'm honored to represent the good people of District 11, which is Southeast Johnson County. So with that then, we have our order of business. You'll see on our agenda a couple of updates from a couple of organizations, entities this week as we get started with our work. And before we do that, however, want to make request for any bill introductions from committee members. Yes, Senator Shane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two bills I would like to introduce today. The RS numbers are 26RS2771, and the second is 26RS2543.
And could you give us the short title for each of those? First, we'll start with 26RS2771.
So this is an act concerning civil actions and civil procedure prohibiting abusive litigation. And the next is concerning wage garnishment.
Thank you, and those will be so introduced. Do we have other bill introduction requests? Yes, Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to request the introduction of RS 2786 regarding the jury duty exemption for breastfeeding mothers.
Thank you, and that will be introduced. Any other request for bill introductions from committee? Not seeing any. Any from those who are in the committee meeting room? Not seeing any today either. So then we will get then to our first presentation, which is from Kansas Legal Services, an overview by Matthew Keenan, Executive Director. So please introduce yourself and welcome to committee. Can we most importantly make sure your microphone is on?
There we go. How's that?
That's much better.
All right. So Matthew Keenan, Executive Director of Kansas Legal Services. With me today is Emma Miller and TK Shively. I've got about 18, 20 minutes. I have 20 slides, and I have 2 video clips that are about 3 minutes long that hopefully with Tanner's help will go off without a hitch. I was here last year. We are a nonprofit law firm. We are a civil law firm. We make communities in Kansas better, safer, stronger. And last time I was here, I gave kind of a macro view. Today, I'm going to give a micro view. I've gone through each of your Senate districts, and when I've identified the kind of cases and constituents we've helped in your district. And I think you'll find that informative, because at the end of the day, really, we are constituent service. At a time when a lot of attorneys are retiring or leaving the rural areas, Kansas Legal Services is still there. We have clients in all 105 counties. In some cases, counties where there are no attorneys, we're there. So I think this is really a helpful exercise for you to find out more about us and understand why we're important to the state and to your constituents. We get about $2.1 million from the state. I'm going to talk about that very briefly. The first thing I want to start with is this observation. If you see on TV a TV ad that someone says, in a wreck, get a check, Kansas Legal Services is the absolute positive opposite of that. We represent Kansans, hardworking Kansans, who may not even own a car. So they're certainly not going to be in a car wreck. And they're getting ahead. They're working to get ahead. We turn away about 2/3 of the people that are otherwise eligible. Essentially, they need to be at or near the federal poverty level, and they need to be working to get ahead. We turn away people that are having pity parties. We turn away clients that are wanting to blame other people. We invest in people, Kansans, who are investing in their own future. So I want to emphasize that we're probably the most important constituent service you may not be familiar with, and hopefully at the end of my 15 minutes, you'll have a better appreciation for why we're important and should be funded. Okay, Tanner, let me see. Okay, there you go. There's some of our big picture statistics. And as you can see, we do a lot for a lot of people. Tanner has turned it on. Okay. So there's where our offices are. We have 11 offices. I office in Overland Park. I'm originally from Barton County, so I have an affinity for the rural areas. I come from a family of lawyers. My brother is still an attorney in Great Bend. I graduated KU 1984. There's a little bit of a snapshot of our budget. As you can see, about 30% of our budget is state-funded, state contracts. We receive about $3 million from Congress, and it's worth noting that Senators Moran and Senator Marshall are very strong supporters of what we do. We are essentially nonpartisan, non-political organization. These are some of the state grants. I don't want to get in the weeds on this too much, but I do want to call attention to the last bullet point, the state of Kansas expungement clinics. The expungement clinics we do around the state are a product of your funding for us. We get $200,000. It is not part of the judicial budget. It has to be added. And so you're going to, I know this isn't the right forum, but we're going to be asking that that funding be added again to this year's budget. It's been in the budget the last 4 years. So expungements are a huge part of what we do. We are about second chances. And one of the videos I'm going to show at the very end is a 3-minute video that highlights a news story about a clinic that we had in Overland Park helping Kansans get second chances. You can see the statistics there. The statistics are that an expungement can result in an increase in living wage of anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 a year. And I've personally had clients who couldn't work at Walmart because they had an old felony on their record. These are the places that we had the clinic in 2025, and I will tell you, if you want us to have a clinic in your district, please let me know, and we'll try to make that happen. These clinics, we hold them at a venue that is given to us at no cost. We have about 100 volunteer attorneys who come to the clinics. It's become a very successful part of what our initiative is. So I told you I would take you through some of your districts. So this is Senator Bowser. This is an example of a client that we helped. Of the constituents in your district, there were 714 individuals we helped in your Senate district. You can see the breakdown. And the lady here that's described in this, she had a previous criminal matter that prevented her from helping in her child's school. And we got that expunged. Senator Haley, I just included the entire county of Wyandotte County, but obviously our office is in Wyandotte County, and so we do a lot there for your constituents. Senator Warren, Senator Corson, and TJ Rose, I just included the entire county. It was easier. You can see about 1,500 cases there. I office in Overland Park, and we do a lot in Johns County. Senator Argabright, 1,100 cases. Senator Titus, a smaller number, but still 178 cases, families, individuals, men or women, that we help in your district. You'll see here, Senator, the wills and estates. We do probably 1,000 wills, end of life planning that we do for funding that we get from Area Agency on Aging all over the state. And about 50% of people die without a will nationwide. And if you die without a will, if anybody's been through that, it can be an enormous headache to the children and the heirs of the decedent. Senator Schmidt, Douglas County, I included the entire county there, but we have a big footprint there in Lawrence. Scott Hill, Senator Hill, 121 cases, a smaller number, but still an active presence there. Senator Clays, 5,716 cases, and the number goes on and on. Elaine Bowers, I talked to you last time about Concordia. We do a lot in Concordia. That's handled out of our Salina office. And you have these slides, and I'll go through these quickly, but Senator Reichman, even though you're out there where you think there's no lawyers, we're there. And they just, Senator Shane and I met for the first time a year ago, but he and I have become good friends because of the advocacy we did for the Aspen apartment units. And you'll see a quick video on that at the end. the city of Edgerton, or Gardner, condemned a big housing unit that sent a lot of people to the streets, and we were there to help them. And I guess I didn't say this, but all the work we do for these Kansans is at no cost to them. So, Tanner, could you play that video? This is a 3-minute video of the work we did.
Tonight, more than 100 families are scrambling to move out of Aspen Place apartments in Gardner, Kansas, as they have until 6 p.m. tomorrow to leave after the city condemned the complex. The notice to vacate is due to unsafe conditions. According to a city spokesperson, things escalated after an emergency when a fire truck couldn't get through to assist on a water main break because of the road issues, and the water remained shut off.
Neighbors from Aspen Place apartments say they saw it coming.
Yeah, it was hopeless.
Over the last year, they say they had multiple days without water on several occasions.
And then we keep getting water leaks after water leaks.
The last straw, according to the city of Gardner, was when a fire truck fell through the street. This is why the city says they ordered residents to vacate the apartments within 48 hours. But according to them, the situation began 16 months ago. We obtained the documents from the city of Gardner. They show that the owners of Aspen Place Apartments, KDR Realty, have been notified about safety concerns since January 2024.
180 families had no place to go. Many are still looking for homes and learning their legal rights. A Tuesday night meeting at the Hampton Inn Conference Center in Gardner is offered by Kansas Legal Services, a nonprofit law firm that currently represents 45 former Aspen Place tenants.
Kansas Legal Services will first meet with families individually tonight. Executive Director Matt Keenan is expected to be there around 4:30. Then that group will meeting following from 6 until 7. The team will help those tenants go through their legal options in the situation. Again, they were only given 48 hours notice to vacate last week.
What happened here is a product of a city failing these families. It's a product of a landlord that's failing these families. And let's hope that the legal system and the courts don't fail these families too. So I think you're going to hear more about what happened there in the coming weeks. I think Senator Shane is making a point of identifying sort of the shortcomings of the law that impacted those families. One of the things that people have asked me is, why did they stay there if you had a landlord that was so difficult? And it's a fair question to ask. A lot of them stayed there because their kids were in the school district. And there weren't a lot of other housing options in that town to stay in the school district. The school district is a very good school district, and people who were there felt like they had the golden ticket and they didn't want to leave, but they had to leave when it was condemned, and most of them did not end up in the school district. They had to leave and go into another school district. The second video I'm going to show you is about 3 minutes, and then I'll conclude and I'll be done, maybe take some questions. The expungement clinics are a terrific thing that we do. You saw a slide on that earlier. Kansas Legal Services is all about second chances, and there's a lot of Kansans who need second chances. Anyone who's raised teenagers knows that sometimes kids do things that they regret, and when they're an adult, those things can sometimes hold them back. And so we've become very proficient at these expungement clinics, and I'll show you a clip of a clinic that we had in Johnson County that was on Channel 9 News, and then I'll be done.
Most people would like a second chance to go back and erase a painful and criminal past.
And that's what was offered at the Johnson County, Kansas courthouse in Olathe. People signed up to get their former crimes cleared through an expungement clinic.
KBC 9's Krista Tatchell is getting answers on how these programs can change lives.
I came here to start my new life, get this felony off my record, and move on.
Darren? Nice to meet you. Good to see you.
Among tables and attorneys working pro bono for Kansas Legal Services, Christina Dane is in joyous disbelief.
I just can't believe it's really happening.
She showed up at this expungement clinic where nonviolent, non-sex-related felonies can be cleared.
I was not registered, and I begged him to help me, and I said, I'll wait all day.
She went to jail for theft.
Having this felony theft on my back, I had a lot of years of addiction and opioids, and it took me down a really long road. And during that, though, I was given a beautiful little girl whom I'm trying to break this cycle of addiction with.
You gotta be all Kansas, obviously, right? Yeah.
For felons, a job is often hard to get.
I've had to work a lot of part-time jobs, sometimes 2 or 3, just to make ends meet. I'm sorry.
Clients who come to these clinics are carrying a lot of emotional baggage. And in some cases, they've been carrying it for most of their adult life.
I'm sorry, I'm not a religion pusher, but I love my God, and that's what got me through this. So first, I'm going to get on my knees and pray and thank him for today.
You're taking the steps that not a lot of people do, and you should be proud of yourself for that.
Yes.
It's bringing joy. It's bringing a brighter future.
Thank you so much.
A future toward which Dane now walks in hope.
Thank you.
Krista Tatchell, KBC 9 News.
Around 40 people attended the clinic today, but these happen year-round across Kansas.
And you can find out more on how to sign up at the Kansas Legal Services website.
So, private attorneys will do an expungement for about $2,000. That's kind of the going rate for an expungement. So we do them for free. So that's really all I have. I think these kind of opportunities you make possible with the support we receive from the legislature. So we're very grateful for that. That's really all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Committee, are there questions? Yes, Senator Bowser.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that presentation. What was the budgeted amount last year? And what's kind of the expectation for this year? Is it a similar amount, or is it?
Yeah, it's similar. We would, yes. Would that be correct? Similar budget amount? Yeah, we're trying to get a little bit more money on the expungement because we had a grant to do driver's license restoration project, and it expired. And it was funded by Congress. So the $200,000 you give us, you get a lot of bang for the buck on that. I mean, if I could increase that modestly, we could start doing driver's license restorations. I think a lot of the senators are familiar with the problem that Kansas has. Kansas has about 200,000 Kansans who have suspended licenses. What you saw there with the expungement clinic does not address that. The driver's license suspensions are typically suspended for something very trivial like missing a court hearing or not paying a fine or fee. We had a driver's license expungement, a driver's license restoration clinic in Wichita, and the Guadalupe Center sponsored it. It was total bananas. I mean, we had, how many people did we have in Wichita? 100 and, how many? 200? Yeah, 200 people came to that in Wichita. Wichita has the most of all the counties with suspended licenses. So this is a conversation I'd love to have in terms of giving us a little bit more money on that, because we go all over the state. And we've really got the system down. We can run these clinics very efficiently. We have a lot of volunteers, and we have partners, whether it's Catholic Charities, United Way, that help give us the clients. We have referral networks. So, I mean, this is at the risk of sounding immodest. I mean, the work we do with expungements and driver's licenses is fantastic. And it is a constituent service that helps them get better jobs. It helps, I mean, all of these employers will tell you that they would like to have a better, more capable workforce, but are being held back. So, yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I want to share, well, you're not leaving so soon, that Mr. Keenan and I had an opportunity to work together at a law firm many years ago, and it's no surprise to me that your career of service and pro bono service to communities continues in the work that you do, providing needed assistance to those who are investing in their own future through the Kansas Legal Services. My question, I do have a question, is there any income threshold, any requirement? Why not go to the expungement clinic, which I have watched you at one of those. I wasn't able to attend the most recent, but they are a great service. Is there any income proof or anything? Because why wouldn't someone go to Kansas Legal Services rather than have to retain a private attorney at their own expense?
That's a very good question. All of our expungement clinics have no financial limitation. That's correct, right, TK? Yes. So no matter what no matter if you could afford to hire a private attorney, you can still come to our clinics. If you're involved, if it's a divorce, that's difficult, that might have domestic violence, we typically will not take that case unless they are living at or near the poverty line. Most of our clients qualify income, but expungements are different, and that's one of the great things about the legislature is we can help anybody who otherwise is eligible. And typically the people who come to the expungement clinics are working, they're going places, but they want to get that next promotion. Or in the case of the woman in Concordia, she couldn't volunteer at her kid's school. And this was a woman who I spent 45 minutes with. You would never in a million years imagine that she had a felony in her record when she was younger. So it's really a good system. And just so we're clear for those that are not lawyers, we cannot get an expungement signed unless the judge has to approve it. So they typically have to go to court, our client, not always, and then the county attorney has to approve it too. So there's safeguards that are in place to make certain that, and everybody who gets an expungement has to make some demonstration that that they're a different person today, that they've turned their life around. And some judges are very particular about that. They may have the client get on the stand and testify. So there's safeguards, and I think by and large the system has worked really well.
And the system provides further safeguards because expungements aren't available for crimes against a person, is that right?
I mean, generally speaking, there's a number of limitations. Anything involving a kid, anything that's sexual related, and any of the serious crimes like murder, for example, are not going to be. The other thing about expungements is you're not eligible for expungements until you fully serve your sentence. If you have a restitution, you have to pay it. I mean, you have to completely have cleaned your slate before you're eligible. So the legislature in its wisdom, I think, really has a very sensible set of rules that have worked very well for us and for the clients we serve.
Thank you for sharing about wills and that kind of estate planning. Are there services for family members who have had a loved one pass who doesn't have a will? Meaning, do you do estate administration or you just do the wills, the planning part?
That's a good question. I don't think we do a lot of probate work, do we, TK? No, typically not. It's just a matter of funding. If we got, we could always expand our footprint, but the funding we get for wills and end of life, that's also not financially limited. I think we can help. In fact, we do help people that could otherwise be capable in hiring an attorney, but the AAA, Area Agency on Aging, they don't want to put those limits on it. And if the funders don't want to put limits on it, we're fine with that. Yeah.
Thank you. Senator Clays has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for coming and presenting on this. It seems like a pretty great program. And I like the restitution part, and kind of tagging on to that a little bit. If there is indeed a victim involved at some point, are they notified of the restitution hearing?
Yes. And the other thing, Senator, you can only get expungement where the act occurred. So you're going to be dealing with a judge who perhaps may have sentenced them. You may be dealing with the county attorney who handled the case. So they're going to be familiar with generally, they're going to be familiar with the circumstances, the individual, and that's an additional safeguard. So if somebody committed an offense in Barton County, let's say my hometown, they can't go to a friendly judge in Douglas County or wherever and get that expunged. They have to go back to the Barton County. And so it's, and that's also a little bit of a limitation, because if we have a clinic in Finney County, we have to recruit people from Finney County. And, sometimes that's hard because a lot of the people that we want to help, they're not, conventional means doesn't get to them. So we've done crazy things like taking ads out on Facebook Crime Blotter, is that right, Emma? Like these obscure websites and those are fantastically successful in recruiting people. So we also have to screen people in advance, because people, they might think they're eligible and they're not. And that takes a lot of time in advance, because if somebody comes to a clinic, we want them to have the confidence that they're going to get an outcome that's going to give them hope. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you very much for
you.
your thorough presentation today. It's always very informative. Committee, next we will hear then from Board of Indigence Defense Services, an update from Ann Sagan, Executive Director. Please introduce yourself and welcome to committee.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman Warren, Vice Chairman Titus, Ranking Member Corson, all the members of the committee, and the legislative staff. Thank you for inviting me here to provide an update on the Kansas Board of Indigence Defense Services. My name is Ann Sagan. I am the Executive Director of BIDS. I recently stepped into this role at the end of September, so this is my first legislative session in this role, and I am excited to share with you about our agency. I want to give you an overview of what we do as an agency, what we're doing well, and what our needs are. First off, our agency exists because in America, you have the right to an attorney if you're facing felony charges. This is a constitutional right that is fundamental to our national identity, and it's part of the guarantee of a fair trial that is promised to us as Kansans in the Kansas Bill of Rights. Every employee of BIDS has answered this call to fulfill the constitutional promise of equal justice. Specifically, we provide equal justice to people in Kansas who are in poverty. Most criminal defendants in Kansas cannot afford to hire a lawyer. In fact, 84% of all adult felony cases in Kansas go through BIDS. Is there a clicker? I actually have a presentation on slides that I don't know if that's set up. It's right here. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So our agency provides free legal representation to all adults in Kansas who are charged with a felony but are unable to afford an attorney. Our services are essential to keeping the justice system moving forward in Kansas. Every single day in courtrooms across the state, our attorneys are working to safeguard the mandate that people in America receive fair justice. We are truly the criminal defense organization in Kansas with the largest reach and the most impact. Through our agency, every single adult felony criminal case for defendants in poverty is provided with an attorney. This is an enormous undertaking, and to do this successfully, we really need your continued help and support. Sorry, I'm having trouble here. We're a non-cabinet agency. We have an executive director and a 9-member board. We provide our services to clients in 2 ways. First, we have a public defender office that has offices across the state. These are institutional, local offices that are staffed by full-time attorneys and other staff members whose sole job is to defend people charged with criminal offenses in the judicial districts where those offices are located and sometimes beyond. Then we also have our assigned counsel program, which is made up of private attorneys who are appointed or contracted to take felony cases for people who can't pay for their attorney, and they're paid through bids to take those cases. Currently, our public defender offices take about 1/3 of all indigent felony cases in Kansas, and 2/3 goes to the panel. We have one central administration office that administers the entire system, and on the public defender side, we have 14 trial offices across the state, which range from Kansas City, Kansas, all the way to Garden City. We have one statewide appellate defender office, and we have 5 death penalty offices. At the trial level, we represent our clients from their initial charging through sentencing. In fiscal year 2025, we closed approximately 8,503 trial-level cases across BID's public defender offices. The map here shows the locations in Kansas where we have institutional trial-level public defender offices. We would love to have more public defender offices and cover more counties. It's our easiest and cheapest way of representing defendants in criminal cases. But in every location where we don't have a public defender office, there are attorneys that we pay, private counsel, to represent criminal defendants, and we pay them $120 an hour, plus the cost of private investigators, sometimes paralegals or other staff if necessary for the case. And we also pay them windshield time if there aren't enough lawyers locally. We pay them windshield time just to reach the areas where we don't have public defender offices because there might not be enough counsel there due to rural attorney shortages. Opening up a public defender office allows us to specifically hire and recruit for counsel to move to that location and be permanent public defenders in that area. At the appellate level, we have one office that operates statewide in non-capital appeals. It has about 21 attorneys. That office handled approximately 1,000 criminal appellate matters in fiscal year 2025. They are a major presence in our higher courts in Kansas. They handle a huge caseload that impacts defendants in every Kansas county. Yet they're extremely overworked and they're desperate for relief, and they require more attorney positions to add to their office so that they can continue to do their work at a high level. We also provide counsel in every capital case in Kansas where a defendant is unable to afford to hire an attorney. We do this through our dedicated capital defense offices and through appointed counsel and contract counsel when needed. We provide multiple levels of capital defense at BIDS. First is trial level defense, which is our death penalty defense office. We have offices in Topeka and Wichita. We have 2 dedicated capital appellate defense offices. Those handle appeals if a defendant has been convicted at the trial level. And we have capital habeas defender office, which looks back at any mistakes that were made at the trial or appellate levels. We're responsible in these cases for providing adequate and effective defense because the consequences of these proceedings is death, which is irreversible, even if a grave mistake about guilt has been made. And so we must invest huge amounts of funds in order to provide that competent counsel and adequate defense in those cases. In fact, much of the litigation in these cases year over year is about what was not done, what should have been done, and what went wrong throughout the trial stage investigation and representation. You might be surprised to learn that while BID's capital cases make up less than 1% of our total caseload, our agency spends approximately 11.5% of its total operating budget on capital cases. In fiscal year 2025, this equated to approximately $7.2 million on capital work alone. In Kansas, we haven't had an execution since 1965. And in fact, we've not had a new death penalty sentence in almost 10 years. The last death sentence was in approximately May of 2016. Yet because our statutes allow death penalty charging in Kansas, these cases continue to be charged as death penalty cases, which triggers layers of litigation and results in a lot of spending. And we continue to have to prioritize capital cases in our budget. Were the death penalty to be taken off the table and life in prison was the highest sentence you could receive in Kansas, we would be able to significantly reduce our capital spending. Now that I've described what we handle in-house through our public defender system, I'll talk a little bit about the private attorneys who help meet the need for what we can't cover in-house. This is the Assigned and Contract Counsel program, which is made up of private attorneys who agree to serve on panels in local jurisdictions and accept discounted rates for bids cases. Each judicial district in Kansas is required to have a local appointment panel under our statutes and regulations. We pay appointed panel attorneys $120 an hour to serve on those panels, which is less than the market rate for private legal services in most jurisdictions and below the federal appointed counsel rate. Many local panels do not have enough attorneys on them to meet the needs, so we have to have a dedicated staff member in our administration office just to find private counsel across the state to take these cases where there aren't any locally. We've had a lot of accomplishments over the last year or two. We've opened several new offices, and one of those is in Kansas City, Kansas, the 29th Judicial District, which just this last year in 2025 moved into its permanent new location, which is the first institutional public defender office in Kansas City. It's a huge milestone and an achievement for that community. In Pittsburgh, Kansas, we also opened a new office that started taking cases this year. That's Crawford, Cherokee, and Labette counties, District 11. This is also the first public defender office in that judicial district. It's doing great work to safeguard the rights of defendants and also help to alleviate the rural attorney shortage. We've also worked to add a new position to many of our offices statewide, and that's called a mitigation specialist, which is an important staff member who works with our defense teams to help our clients navigate resources in the community while their case is pending, and help attorneys collect information that is essential for the court to hear as the case progresses, particularly at sentencing, such as a client struggled their whole life with an intellectual disability or another challenge that might be relevant to their case. For our investigators, we've worked to improve their training and support them. They work in very difficult conditions. They meet with witnesses, they meet with defendants, and they work to uncover the facts of the case, much like their law enforcement counterparts. And we've also built an extremely robust internship program that we're very proud of. Our law student interns receive dedicated training. They receive wonderful direct supervision. They get editing by a team of appellate attorneys on their work. They go on field trips. They have other learning opportunities. And many of our interns return for a second or a third internship, and then they're hired by us after they graduate law school to become new public defenders. We've also worked to improve our data collection, retention, and analysis. We have a dedicated data analyst in our office now who has worked with us for the past few years to help us understand what data we have, what data we need to collect, how we can improve our collection of that data. And we're also currently in the process of implementing our new case management system, which will allow us to collect many more data points about our cases on a system-wide scale. Nevertheless, we continue to have challenges, and these are mainly around two major funding issues. So one is that we simply don't have enough funding to support the number of positions that we need as an agency. Public defenders are cheaper and a more efficient way of delivering defense services in Kansas, yet we're constantly relying on payments to the private bar to cover these cases. And our offices frequently have to close to new cases, which, while they're technically still open, it means that they can't take in any new cases in the judicial district where they're located because they're at capacity for the number of cases that they can represent ethically. If we had more attorneys in those offices, we could take more cases, and our offices would have to close less frequently, and we could save money by not having to pay private attorneys $120 an hour.
So thank you for the presentation. One of the challenges we face in the committee here is time. So we probably need to wrap up in order to have time for questions. Your presentation in about 8-ish minutes or so.
Okay,
just to make sure we're on track for that. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So we are asking to increase the starting salary of our new attorneys to $80,000. And I know that that's not what this committee will do, but just so that you know, one of our major budget asks for this year. But something that this committee will perhaps touch on is one of our legislative goals is to support the social worker exemption bill. This is a bill that affects the mitigation specialist role that I mentioned earlier, which is often held by licensed social workers, and they've received social work master's degrees. They come into the role of mitigation specialists with a whole toolbox of skills that they've gained through their social work training that enables them to create strong relationships with clients and to build trust between the client and the defense team and to obtain the information that our attorneys need to provide adequate and effective representation. But they have mandatory reporting requirements that make it difficult for them to work on defense teams because often in our cases we may uncover information that would trigger those reporting requirements. So right now we often have to have them not work on certain cases or certain matters, and the bill would create an exemption for social workers who work on attorney teams and are covered by attorney ethic requirements. So that's something that would streamline our work and would allow our mitigation specialists who are licensed social workers to be full-fledged members of the defense teams. I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to present before you about BID's needs. And I look forward to answering any questions and working with you throughout the legislative session to advance criminal justice priorities and ensure that BIDS has the resources it needs to serve our clients and the people of Kansas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I know there's a lot left in the slides of your presentation, so I would direct committee members to take a look at those slides as a follow-up to your presentation. As another follow-up, I had our revisor take a look at the bill that would create an opportunity for social workers to work closer, more in tandem with the criminal defense bar, and that did get out of this committee. That bill did favorably, and then it did pass out of the Senate. I'm not sure what the vote was in the Senate, but Ms. Scott can probably tell us that, and then what the fate of the bill has been.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. That was Senate Bill 128. You guys passed it out of this committee and you put it on the consent calendar. It passed the Senate 40-0. Then it went over to the House. House Judiciary passed it out of committee with no amendments, and then it was stricken from the calendar by Rule 1507 in the House.
So it's below the line, or it's stricken from the calendar, and so it would have to start anew. So are you going to bring another bill, or do you know yet? You probably will, yes. I'm seeing nods of head, yes.
Yes, that's our plan. And Rebecca Gaston, our legislative staff attorney, is here, and she's been working on that.
Okay, great. Well, other questions from committee? Yes, Senator Shane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you had to choose authorization of more FTEs or an increase in base pay, which would you choose?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Obviously, it's a little bit of a Sophie's choice for us, but I will say that I think that we would prioritize an increase in our base pay for our starting attorneys. Our budget ask on that really focuses on our PD1 level, which is our initial starting attorneys, to raise them up to $80,000, which is really fair pay and keeps them in line with their prosecutor counterparts. And I think that would help us fill positions. And then, of course, over time, we would have to come back and ask for additional positions from you all. But I do think that that is a priority of ours to increase that.
Thank you for that question. Thinking in the budget the last couple of years, did we increase appropriations for bids? I'm thinking we did.
Yes, I think the legislature has been very supportive of bids over time, and we're an agency that does an enormous amount of work, and we just continue to have needs because there are a lot of criminal cases in Kansas that require really high caliber defense, and we're trying to make sure that our public defenders continue to be supported in that and can do ethical work for defendants here.
Yes, absolutely. And, we need robust representation on both sides of the verses in a lawsuit, on the prosecution side, the defense side, in civil, which doesn't have attorneys provided by the state, but in the criminal arena, we do, so it needs to be robust. And thank you for the work that you do there. Are there other questions from the committee? Not seeing any, then thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it. We'll probably be hearing from you further on some issues this session.
Yes, you will, and thank you very much. We appreciate so much your support.
Absolutely, and welcome to your new position. So, committee, that wraps up our agenda work for today. We do kind of have allowance to meet in committee till noon, but we're going to try to adjourn most days by 11:30. So I know committee members have other business to take care of, and I don't want to stand in the way of any staff or committee member and their lunch. So with that, then, thank you for your work, everyone, and we are adjourned.